Affording a luxury designer bag is not about how much you have in your checking account, and it's certainly not how much you have on your credit card. As we've been approaching this new year, I've really been thinking about the importance of financial wellness and ensuring that, people get their bags, which are really pretty and nice, but also getting their bag, like their retirement and their other financial goals. I wanted to share some of the financial parameters that I use to answer the question, can you afford a designer bag? Given that the fact that the average household income in the United States is $80,000, and the fact that many of these luxury designer brands are about $2,000 to $5,000. A $5,000 bag would be equivalent to like 6% of your total household income on a single item. That is clearly a want and is basically equivalent to the amount you pay in social security taxes. So while most YouTubers who talk about bags all have massive collections, which also kind of makes sense when you watch someone who only had one bag, the reality is probably very practical and responsible to only have one bag. As an example, I love watching SLG videos, but I don't make SLG videos because I only have two. This is my Prada one and I love her, $200 from The RealReal. And then this is my Hermes Calvi wallet. And I have nothing else to say beyond that. And so it's important to remember that the person you're seeing on screen is not like you. A lot of them are incredibly wealthy, obviously, but a lot of them have been known to also show fakes, have been gifted a lot of the items, and some of them might be in a worse financial situation than you might think. And the last, which I think is the most important thing, is some of them might not have a healthy relationship with finances or with bags and shopping to begin with. Because I remember when I was shopping a lot and wanting bags and constantly on the internet looking at the new releases, I don't think I was in a healthy place to begin with. I think I was always just wanting the next thing. And so when I think about this question, can you afford a luxury bag? I think this question has been twisted so much by social media because everyone seems to have one online, but the reality is most people don't. Beyond the fact that luxury influencers all have massive collections, companies themselves are pushing this narrative that bags are investments, and consumers believe them. The reality is most bags will lose hundreds if not thousands of dollars on. So they can't really be investments. If anything, this is a narrative that companies push out so that you believe that you're making an investment and you're buying this item, you can cash it out later to eventually buy that next bag that they're releasing in their next collection. So while there's a lot of good solid advice out there about how to purchase affordably or purchase responsibly, sometimes even those narratives of, oh, I'm going to take one bag in and one bag out, can feed into this idea or dangerous mindsets of, oh, these bags are investments. I also think people are starting to twist the idea of what a special occasion means. So I know that it's probably pretty good to, commemorate a special time with a bag. I did that when I was admitted to Harvard. I decided to buy this mini Lady Dior. She's so cute. Look at the My Melody charm I bought for her in Japan. But I have to say, not every special accomplishment I've made and not every birthday qualifies as a time in which I buy a bag. One, you don't need a bag or a material item to commemorate a special occasion. And two, just because you've accomplished something doesn't mean you're entitled to it. I think the narrative of, it's my birthday, I'm going to get one. It's a push present, I'm going to get one. Like, yes, these are all great moments, but not everyone can get those things every single birthday. Not everyone can get that as a push present. They're all saving up for the actual present, the baby. So while it's important to set boundaries when it comes to buying bags, whether that's being a special occasion or setting certain kinds of parameters of what kinds of bags you'd like to buy, make sure that those are real boundaries. Now that we've talked about why people think they deserve to buy a handbag, I wanted to share my thoughts on what it actually means to be able to afford a handbag. So the first thing I think about before being able to afford a designer bag is nothing to do with income. It's really about where you are financially. Do you have a lot of credit card debt? Are you on track for your retirement? Do you have a healthy emergency fund? If all of those things are in order, then you are in a place where you can even start to think about buying a bag. I personally don't think that anyone who doesn't have an emergency fund or doesn't have enough in retirement or has credit card debt should be even considering buying a designer bag to begin with. I also think that if you're someone who knows that you're planning to buy a house soon or you're going to buy a car and you're saving up for a different thing, then sometimes it just might not be here for that particular season of life. So having these financial checklists ahead, regardless of the amount of money you make, is something that I think is very important. But the second thing that I think is really important is that once you have all this base settled down, it's very easy for you to think that you have the money because you have it in your checking account, or you don't really know what your other financial goals are. And so the second thing I think about is, based on your income, you think about like the 50-30-20 rule just as a base, and know that only perhaps that 30% goes to wants. So if 30% goes to wants and you know you have a whole bunch of other wants, then that is the amount of money that you should be saving slowly that gets you to that bag. And so that made me really think about, okay, well, knowing this, I actually have to be very conscientious because I like to eat out as well. I love to travel. And so my budget for buying a bag becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. In fact, let's say you want to buy a $5,000 bag and you want to buy it within the month. Well, to be able to get that with that 50-30-20 rule, you'd have to be making over like $15,000 a month. And that's post-tax. So once you think about the numbers like that, I think I feel less guilty about not being able to buy the next bag, and it almost makes me not want to buy it at all anymore as well, because then I think about all the other things I should be doing with that money. So whatever your percentage is, and this also depends on whether you want to ascribe to the 50-30-20 rule, having a certain percentage of money or like a bag fund is very important to make sure that you're not overspending on your bag category and neglecting other parts of your life. Another thing that I think about is match, in terms of, you know how when you have an employer and they match how much you put into your retirement, I have this thing where if I'm buying a bag, I try to ensure that I match the amount of money into my retirement or my investment. So you know that age-old saying, like, if you can't buy it twice, then you shouldn't buy it at all. Well, I kind of take that to heart and I actually go and effectively buy the item twice. So all of those things relate to financial management. But there's also this component of behavioral management. And so there are a bunch of different tips that I employ here that I think are like almost more important than just allocating a certain amount of money. The first thing I do is ensure that I never buy anything impulsively anymore. I really take the time to think. And sometimes waiting 1 to 2 days isn't enough, because I can obsess over things for quite some time. But then once I find the next thing to latch onto, I completely forget about the thing before. And so knowing yourself and not using 1 to 2 days as the excuse and say like, okay, I've already thought about it for 2 days, now I want it, so I'm gonna get it, and still feeling the remorse later, is not going to help you at all. So for me, I really keep things in the wish list, and I try not to think too much about, oh, I'm never going to see it again, because one thing I've always noticed is that you always see it again. There's this particular micro DJoy that I really like that comes every February. It has like these cute hearts. And the very first time I saw that bag, I felt like, oh, I really need this bag and it's never going to come again. And you talk to the essays and they're like, it's limited edition. But every year this bag comes back. I also think that the resale market now is just so robust that you will be able to find it eventually. And so maybe it's called manifesting, but I think it's just more of being patient with yourself. Not making decisions too quickly is really going to be very helpful. So for me, what I do is, I take a picture of it, I try on the bag, and I take a video with it so I can always refer to it and see whether I really like it, but only after I've tried it multiple times and consulted people about where this goes in my collection, do I actually pull the trigger. On top of a wish list, I also try to keep a no-buy list, so parameters in which I will not buy an item. For example, when I talked about my 2 SLGs, this was the first SLG I bought, and then this was the second one, and after I bought the second one, I decided no more. And since then, I have stuck to that rule, and I don't think I'll be breaking that anytime soon. Another thing I try to do is associate bags with special occasions, and this completely eliminates this idea of impulse spending, because if it's not a special occasion, I go into the store knowing that I'm just window shopping. And special occasions to me may be things like birthdays, but oftentimes they're not really birthdays, but milestones that I've reached in my life, things that I'm really proud of, or something I really want to commemorate. For example, I do know that I might want to get like an Hermes Birkin in Fauve Berena, but there are certain financial goals I want to hit, and once I hit that particular financial goal, then I would buy a bag. And so I know that, I would never buy that bag now because now I'm still a student, I haven't met my financial goals. It reduces that sense of want, because right now I just know it's not the right time, it's not the right place. And who knows, maybe once I hit that financial goal of mine, I might not even want the bag at all. And I think once I attach these special events or memories or accomplishments towards the bag. It's a way to show a physical manifestation of a particular time in your life, but also prevents you from overbuying just for the sake of I like the item. To be honest, I don't have that many huge momentous occasions in my life. Perhaps the next one might be graduating, or if this YouTube channel does really well. But otherwise, I just end up buying, smaller designer bags like Coach or Polen, and I'm happy all the same. And so that brings me to the next point. There is this sense of adrenaline when you buy a piece of item and you're happy for that moment and then it goes away. Oftentimes, I feel like that sense of happiness is the same whether it's a very, very expensive item or if it's just like averagely priced or even cheaply priced. All of this is to say that when it comes to your behavior and your attachment towards bags, it has to be done in a healthy manner. So putting parameters around how you shop, why you shop, and what you shop will really help you get a better mindset of ensuring that you're not just constantly wanting new things all the time. Because one thing I fear that social media does is that they're always talking about the new releases and the new things that they want and their updated wish list, that there's very little space for people to be very content with what they have. The last tip I have is actually very personal. It's actually one of the few reasons I started this YouTube channel. I realized that I love talking about bags, I loved looking at what's new, but I really needed to channel the energy in a different way beyond just I need to have it, I need to buy it. And I think one of the things that I did was start creating content so I could still talk about them, I could still have an excuse to go to the store to look at them, and in a way that weirdly kind of shifted some of the desire to want to own a lot of the bags. And so if there are other creative outlets or other hobbies that you have that help you decide to get away from this shopping point of view, I think that might be really helpful as well. So overall, luxury should be about enhancing your life. It shouldn't go against your financial goals. And this new year, I hope that my channel is able to give a sense of excitement, but also a sense of calm. Because sometimes when I'm looking at some people who are buying bags, I'm like, oh, are you okay? Because I remember when I was buying a lot of bags and a lot of items constantly, I don't think I was all right. How do you decide whether you can afford a bag? I'd love to hear your comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, I hope you do give it a subscribe. I am hoping to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!